Welcome back to the road to reinvention. Today, I really want to talk about coming back home to ourselves. So I was recently on a plane where I do some of my best writing, and I was thinking about how much reinvention has cost me. And I'm sure for many of you, reinventing yourself or having to make a drastic pivot, be it in business, be it in your career overall, or just even in your personal life, how much it costs to change and transform and transition as you continue to evolve. Reinvention cost me my old beliefs, old behaviors, facing harsh truths about how I've shown up in the past, and how the way that I've shown up in the past has also hindered me. It's hindered my growth and even some of my relationships. I think at times I've struggled with seeing myself. I think most of us like to believe we're good people, right? We volunteer, we donate money to causes, we tweet about corrupt politicians and systemic injustice. We might even recycle a time or two. But what does it really cost us when we stay the same? And that's one of the fundamental questions I've been asking myself throughout this journey. The last 2 years of my life have truly been the most transformative. Like many of you in 2020, I found myself isolated, living alone in my 6th city. And amid a scary pandemic, I was unable to forge the relationships I wanted. I ended one romantic relationship. The father that I had many, many difficulties with passed on. And I was trying to uphold a company I was so afraid was going to go under. But in that season, there were so many new things that were pushing me to grow into myself, that next version of myself. I was angry, I was sad, I was afraid, and still grappling with all that wasn't and all that is, and still attempting to show up polished, decorated with the Ivy League degree and the gold stars, and still somehow lay my head down at night, deeply dissatisfied and feeling lacking in most areas of my life. Like many of you, there have been several dark nights of the soul. The ones that cause you to undress and uncover all of that black box you stuffed those thoughts and those experiences and some of those negative reactions into. Like many of you, therapy was a big part of my life, but it was almost moot because I knew all the right words to say. I knew all the books to read, but that didn't necessarily resolve the issues. I didn't know rest or stillness. You see, stillness is where you work through those shadows. You work through that black box. And I was never that person to be overly sensitive. I had a get it done, no excuses kind of mentality. I even recall attempting not to cry in front of my partner and saying like verbatim, I don't want you or the world to see me cry because I do not want to be seen as weak. Oh my goodness, there was no freedom in that. I had built this persona and I lived within a shell of myself because that shell represented safety. And for how many of you can you say the same thing? I had invented myself. I said the right things. I got the right accolades. I went to the right schools. I joined the right companies. And in response to trauma, in response to rejection, and to feeling good enough to be where I had gotten, that shell represented a veneer to cover up what was truly going on inside. Becoming was and still is the roughest part of my journey. And even saying these words on camera and on this podcast and recording them and sharing them out into the world, it's very difficult because I'm asking to be seen. And I don't know about all of you, but there's this point when life, aside from all the nice accoutrements and different levels of success afford, there is a stark period of surrender. The glitz and the glam and the perfectly curated Instagram feeds just become less and less appealing. Some of the emptiness reminds us how much we're craving home. Home, not necessarily as a physical place, but a home within ourselves that represents safety and that represents that freedom. What is your home? What is your safety? I always love that scripture about gaining the entire world, but not losing your soul. And I think about it will never be enough to gain all the things we think we're supposed to have, and yet not have a center, not have a home to return to. That place where you can cry or binge watch your favorite shows without judgment, or have your friends pop by, or have a true relationship with your higher power, or to wake up each morning uncertain about the future, but still realizing that things will work out for you. Knowing that the seeds you have sown will bear fruit because you showed up fully, because you served and you led from a place of love. And that care and that continuum of excellence and that commitment to excellence allows you to give everything back to yourself. Y'all, I don't know if it's yoga or baths and spa trips or sitting with scripture or dancing in the sun, but you've got to get back to yourself. You got to comb through the tangles and sort things out because it builds you back stronger. Having these moments of surrender and reinvention made me a more empathetic CEO. It let me know when I needed to let go of someone who didn't deliver, but that I could let them go, but I could let them go with grace and with dignity, and know that the good Lord had my back and would put me in position still to win. The miracles in my life and the transformation that continues for us all are a reflection of our level of growth and willingness to surrender to the processes that make us nervous as shit. It's the letting go of the need to have linear assurances. Sometimes things go left. Those deals fall through. That client contract that would have helped you make payroll never makes it through negotiation. Folks ghost you in business and in life. And yet, and still, when you've achieved that center and know, like Oprah says, I will still do well, a peace washes over you. That divine and loving center whispers to you and says, hey, I got you. Don't worry about this. I got something bigger in store. And you stay vigilant. You stay learning. You stay growing. You stay on task. You expand your heart. You be kind to yourself. And you give yourself grace and you give it to others. And you're willing to hear the honest feedback you need to go to the next level. You're open and willing to learn new tricks. And you're willing to quit shit that doesn't matter anymore. Wherever you are in your journey, I truly hope that you are giving yourself the time and the grace to come home to yourself. I want to continue connecting with you. I want to hear about how you're coming home to yourself this year. Hit me on Instagram or even on TikTok, because now I'm out there hanging out with the Gen Z crowd. And make sure you sign up for my forthcoming newsletter, Fluency, on my site at sherrelldorsey.com, where I'll be dropping monthly musings on life, business, graceful thinking, and some of my random adventures.